Now we will begin the meeting of the Forum of Partners. So the first point on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, which was made available on our platform. I will summarize it. So the agenda is, first of all, the approval of the Forum report number 5, which has been made available online as well. Then we will go to the 4 per thousand annual activity report 2020-2021, the scientific and technical committee activity report of the same year, the 4 per thousand implementation plan, and the presentation of the Twin Regions project and its implementation. Then we will conclude. So are there any objections to this agenda? Or any suggestions for modifications? No comments, no objections, great. So we will consider the agenda approved. And so now Paul will present to us the 4 per thousand annual activity report of the year 2020-2021. So please, Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I will shift to French, if you don't mind. Donc, pour présenter le rapport d'activité, je voudrais juste revenir sur le fait que l'année dernière, nous avions, au niveau du consortium, adopté la feuille de route 2021 et que cette feuille de route contenait des activités autour du travail du comité scientifique et technique, de la continuation de la plateforme collaborative et de son opérationnalité, le travail quant à la mobilisation de financeurs publics et privés pour aider l'initiative à continuer ses activités, l'établissement d'un niveau régional, sachant qu'on est dans un contexte quand même assez particulier du Covid, la poursuite de nos contributions aux débats internationaux sur la séquestration du carbone dans les sols, et enfin un travail sur la communication qui s'est poursuivi tout au long de l'année. Donc, tout ceci, bien sûr, en addition, en plus de tout le travail qui était conduit par le secrétariat exécutif. Nous avons notamment pu, l'année dernière, et comme vous l'avez validé juste avant, tenir la 5e réunion du forum, qui s'est faite en ligne pour les raisons que nous connaissons tous, et qui a duré plus de 5 heures le 9 décembre 2020 sur Zoom, sous la présidence du docteur Mayaki. Et nous avons eu de différentes interventions de ministres et de représentants des administrations. Nous avons eu aussi l'année dernière une présentation inspirante de Finian Makepeace, le réalisateur du film Kiss the Ground, qui a contribué à populariser la notion d'agriculture régénérative un peu partout dans le monde. Et puis nous avons donné une large place aux agriculteurs pour pouvoir faire part de leur vision des choses quant à la santé des sols et l'adoption de nouvelles pratiques sur la séquestration du carbone dans les sols. Enfin, il avait été présenté durant cette journée le plan stratégique qui avait été adopté durant l'année, ainsi que les premiers éléments du projet Twin Regions sur lesquels nous reviendrons un petit peu plus tard. Le lendemain, nous avions tenu la réunion du consortium qui avait permis de valider les activités du bureau, de valider de nouveaux partenaires et membres comme nous le ferons cet après-midi, de noter les changements en termes de fonctionnement de la présidence, puisque nous avons adopté un système de Noria qui permettait de faire rentrer une nouvelle vice-présidente, qui est Gabrielle, qui est à côté de moi, et qui permettait aussi d'avoir une continuité dans le système, puisque le vice-président sortant partira au bout de 2 ans et la vice-présidente entrante remplacera le président qui deviendra vice-président sortant. On aura une continuité dans le système, ce qui est une meilleure chose pour la vie de l'initiative. On a eu aussi la validation des 2 nouveaux membres du CST que sont le professeur Madame Consuelo Varela Ortega et Monsieur Dr Alexandro Fuente Espinosa qui ont rejoint le comité scientifique et technique durant l'année 2021. Et enfin, nous avions validé le changement d'entité hébergeante du secrétariat exécutif de l'initiative, puisque nous sommes passés du CGIAR à l'Alliance SIAT Biodiversity le 1er janvier de cette année. Nous avons continué les activités comme il nous avait été demandé à travers l'organisation de 2 meetings du CST, c'est-à-dire du comité scientifique et technique, l'une qui a eu lieu en ligne au mois de juin et la deuxième qui vient de se terminer à Glasgow même, donc en version hybride, un petit peu comme nous le faisons aujourd'hui, avec des membres qui n'ont pas pu venir et puis des membres qui ont fait le déplacement sur place. Je ne vais pas m'étendre plus dessus parce que nous aurons tout à l'heure le rapport d'activité du CST par sa présidente, Madame Cornelia Rumpel, Dr Rumpel, donc je ne m'étends pas dessus. Pendant toute l'année 2021, et pas 2020, comme c'est écrit sur cette diapositive par erreur, le bureau a tenu 5 réunions en ligne. Il se réunit régulièrement, à peu près tous les 2 mois. Il a notamment permis de développer le travail sur le plan de mise en œuvre, puisqu'il a validé les premières... Merci de ne pas changer mes diapositives, sinon je ne peux pas suivre. Il a donc validé les premières versions du plan de mise en œuvre, 2050. Il a également validé le fait de fusionner les 2 déclarations d'intention qui étaient les textes un petit peu fondateurs qu'on fait signer à tous les nouveaux membres et partenaires, de façon à n'en avoir plus qu'un et de simplifier un peu les procédures. On a poursuivi l'animation des collèges au niveau du bureau, préparé la journée d'aujourd'hui au sein du bureau, et puis bien sûr, participer à la sélection des candidats pour la vice-présidence et suivi le déroulement des élections. D'ailleurs, ces élections qui ont permis de voir que l'engouement pour le poste de vice-présidente était assez fort, puisqu'on a eu 6 candidats. Bon, il y a quelqu'un qui n'avait pas tout à fait compris qu'on souhaitait une femme, puisqu'on a quand même eu un candidat masculin, mais donc le bureau a demandé à ce qu'elle ne soit pas prise en compte, cette candidature, et il y a eu quand même 5 candidatures féminines de haute qualité, toutes les 5, de représentantes de l'Amérique latine et 3 d'Amérique du Nord, qui représentaient des collèges aussi variés que les institutions de recherche, les ONG ou des groupements de producteurs agricoles. On a eu 35% de participation à l'élection. L'élection n'est pas obligatoire, hein, chacun vote s'il a envie de voter. Et c'est à ce titre-là que nous avons le plaisir d'avoir aujourd'hui comme vice-présidente Gabrielle Bastien, qui a été élue donc par le consortium durant cette procédure élective. Je ne vais pas m'étendre sur la liste des... Oui, on peut l'applaudir, c'est vrai. Merci.
Merci, merci.
Je ne m'étendrai pas sur la longue liste des meetings, des réunions internationales, toutes quasiment en ligne auxquelles nous avons participé durant l'année. Cette version en ligne a été une façon de solliciter de plus en plus les acteurs. Je pense que tous les gens qui sont dans cette salle ont été sollicités plus que d'habitude pour participer à beaucoup de ces réunions. Bien sûr, nous n'avons pas fait exception à la règle, mais on était heureux aussi de voir que le sujet des sols, et de la santé des sols et du stockage du carbone dans les sols soit aussi remis vraiment haut dans l'agenda, comme ça a été souligné encore ce matin. Bon, je ne vais pas revenir sur les interactions qu'on a avec d'autres partenaires. On a participé, comme ça a été dit, à l'Action Track 3 du sommet sur les systèmes alimentaires. C'est extrêmement important. On a aidé aussi à l'émergence de ces coalitions dont on a parlé ce matin, coalition sur l'agroécologie et coalition autour de l'action pour la santé des sols. Donc ça, c'est vraiment quelque chose dont on est particulièrement fier et on espère pouvoir continuer à jouer un rôle important dans ce processus. Attendez, peut-être que j'ai raté quelque chose. Oui, je voulais dire aussi qu'on a participé à la fin de la vie de Circasa. On y reviendra dessus tout à l'heure, cet après-midi, pardon, avec Jean-François Souzana, et donc poser les jalons pour la création de ce nouveau projet Orcasa qui, on l'espère tous, permettra de organiser ce consortium international sur la recherche autour de la séquestration du carbone. On a continué notre travail pour animer la plateforme collaborative. Marc Bernard, qui nous a fait un petit coucou tout à l'heure et qui prendra la parole après moi, a beaucoup contribué au travail sur cette plateforme, et notamment avec le travail sur l'étude Delphi, etc., grâce à notre partenaire l'ONG AFRIS du Bénin, qui est extrêmement importante dans ce processus et dans le fonctionnement de la plateforme. Et puis là, vous avez un petit peu un avant-goût de le nouveau look de notre site Internet, qui devrait arriver online très bientôt, je l'espère. Ça fait déjà plusieurs mois que je dis ça. On va finir par croire que c'est l'Arlésienne, mais ça va finir par arriver et on va quand même changer un petit peu de look par rapport à un site qui était qui avait un peu vécu et qui a besoin d'évoluer avec un peu plus d'interactivité, interactivité avec les réseaux sociaux, etc. Vous avez pu bénéficier aussi de 4 numéros de la newsletter en français, en anglais, en espagnol tout au long de l'année. Nous avons continué ce travail sur l'évolution graphique des documents et puis un petit peu aussi autour du livre qui pour l'instant est un peu au point mort, mais il y a un nouveau livre qui devrait sortir. Vous avez à l'entrée et puis la petite affiche là-bas qui vous permet de participer à la précommande si ça vous intéresse. Un petit livre qui fera un petit peu le point sur beaucoup de notions autour de l'agroécologie et agriculture régénérative, agriculture conservation, des termes dont on parle beaucoup ces temps-ci et qui méritent peut-être d'être un peu plus mis en lumière et d'être clarifiés. En termes de communication, on a continué le travail énorme par rapport aux ambassadeurs, les relations de presse, les veilles actives qui font de plus en plus mention de l'initiative 4 pour 1000, mais surtout de la santé des sols. C'est ce qui est plus important qu'on parle de la santé des sols que de l'initiative. Et puis, nos 3 réseaux sociaux, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn et aussi YouTube, ont de plus en plus de followers, comme on dit dans le jargon d'aujourd'hui. Et on en est ravis, on contribue beaucoup à faire circuler des nouvelles et de l'information. Madame la Présidente, si vous trouvez que je suis trop long, vous me coupez. Nous avons continué à accroître la communication autour de nos membres et de nos partenaires. Il y aura une nouvelle carte là aussi sur le nouveau site internet, donc je vous donne un petit look en avant-goût. Ça ne sera peut-être pas tout à fait ces couleurs-là, mais on y travaille encore par rapport à l'ancien. Et on a surtout tenu la foire virtuelle de l'initiative 4 pour 1000, qui a été un grand moment. Et là, je remercie particulièrement Marc pour tout le travail qu'il a fait à ce niveau-là. Il a permis d'avoir une foire qui se tenait sur la plateforme collaborative avec des stands qui étaient tenus par des gens qui pouvaient être là en présentiel par Zoom et qui permettaient d'avoir des visites virtuelles. Donc, c'était vraiment une des premières, bon, il y en a eu d'autres, on n'a pas été les seuls à faire ça, de foire virtuelle autour de ce sujet. Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est qu'on l'a laissée ouverte de façon à ce que tous les partenaires de l'initiative qui le souhaitent puissent ouvrir un stand et s'en servir comme vitrine permanente pour exprimer le niveau de leurs actions. Je ne reviens pas sur procédure administrative, bon, on en a parlé, le nouvel entité qui nous héberge. Bon, au niveau du nombre de partenaires et de membres, eh bien, on a encore accru le nombre, puisqu'on est à 660 aujourd'hui, avec près de 300 partenaires qui sont des membres qui participent aux décisions. Sur le budget, j'y reviendrai plus en détail cet après-midi, mais sur un budget qui avait été validé à 955 000 €, nous n'en avons eu disponible qu'une partie, puisque ça dépend de la bonne volonté de l'ensemble de nos bailleurs. On a toujours le support des ministères français, espagnols et allemands qui nous aident à travers des financements, mais qui nous aident aussi à travers des mises à disposition de postes, ce qui est un support extrêmement important pour nous. Et donc, on a eu un budget global de à peu près 446 000 €, tout compris, tout au long de l'année, qui nous a permis de fonctionner et de faire en grande partie, une bonne partie de ce que nous avions prévu de faire à travers la feuille de route, mais ce n'est pas suffisant. On espère qu'à travers le fait de mobiliser un peu plus nos financeurs et peut-être à travers l'idée de lancer cette fondation dont on parle depuis 2 ans, 4 pour 1000, on devrait peut-être arriver à mobiliser un peu plus de fonds pour nous permettre de travailler. Et puis j'ai fini mon diaporama avec petite vision de l'équipe qui m'entoure, parce que c'est effectivement plus souvent moi qui suis dans la lumière, mais on a aussi Béatrice, que vous avez vu, qui est là, Brigitte, qui fait du travail à Montpellier en tant qu'assistante, Paloma, qui est dans la salle, qui gère tous les aspects scientifiques, Marc, qui est à Bonn, qui nous aide beaucoup, je l'ai dit, sur la plateforme, mais pas seulement, sur beaucoup de discussions, de concepts par rapport à ce qui vous avait été présenté sur le cadre opérationnel. Et puis, nous avons aussi nos 3 amis qui sont à Bonn, autour de BLE, qui sont Julia, Samuel et Claudia, voilà, plus d'autres consultants. Merci à toute mon équipe pour le support qu'ils m'apportent et qui fait en sorte que l'initiative puisse vivre. Voilà tout ce qu'on a pu, un petit aperçu de ce qu'on a pu faire cette année. Merci.
Now we will hear from Dr. Cornelia Rumpel, who is the chair of the Scientific and Technical Committee. And she will give us a presentation of the Scientific and Technical Committee Activity Report 2020-2021.
So I just to say to you, I will give this presentation on behalf of the STC, of the 4 per Mil initiative. So we are always 14 members with respect of the gender equilibrium. So 5 women and 5 men from all over the world. And this year we had 2 meetings, like Paul already mentioned. They were both more or less, the one was completely online and the other was a hybrid meeting. And this is really quite difficult working conditions for us. So there was time difference. The meetings were shorter because people wanted to go to sleep or not to stay up at 3 o'clock in the night. So this was quite difficult, and we had difficulties with internet connection, etc. So the pandemics really kind of impacted our work. We did expertise at the science policy interface. For example, we revised the criteria and indicators for project assessment. So this new revised version will be published on the new website of the 4 per Mil initiative. We had a working group defining to give a definition of the regenerative agriculture. And this is the occasion of a launch of info nodes. So the STC will give definitions or will in the future give more information about specific topics which are discussed at the moment, or where members or partners have some questions, so we could edit some info notes on specific subjects. We also participated as authors and reviewers in the technical manual on soil organic carbon management, which was published this year by the GSP. And we also reviewed the GSOC protocol. In terms of strategy and outreach, there was the 3rd call for formative project assessment launched this year. We had 18 land management projects from different regions of the world, and those have been assessed by STC members. We also participated and also organized the 4 per Mil introductory workshop in Latin America and the Caribbean, which took place online in December 2020. And these actions were made in order to inform and gather multi-stakeholder consortia and to develop 4 per Mil projects. And also this may help to attract funders. Next slide, please. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So because of the pandemics, the STC, because we were also impacted, we had some work done concerning the role of soil carbon sequestration to enhance human resilience for tackling global crises, including pandemics. We really think that soil organic carbon sequestration, which will lead to healthy soils, which have better agricultural yield and improve food production, healthier food production. So we can really also contribute to the SDG 3 by soil organic carbon sequestration. We showed in an article that has been submitted to Lancet Planetary Health that the soil organic carbon sequestration enhancement could also lead to reduced risk for the emergence of pathogenic organisms, that resilience of pandemics may be reinforced, and that we may also have more resistance to pandemics. So another work was the continuous work on the topic collection of articles on the regional management practices with positive effects on soil carbon to meet the goals of the 4 per mil initiative. This is a topic collection which will come out early next year, hopefully, will be published in Regional Environmental Change. And 5 regions are included: America, Africa, Asia, Oceania, and Europe. So we had a call for articles in 2020, and we had great responses. So we got 30 manuscripts submitted. We had, unfortunately, to reject 9, and 8 are already published. So the publication of the total collection is planned for spring 2020. And up to now, we have a good representation of articles of the different regions of the world. This is an important knowledge gathering step, and is done in synergy with the GSP practical manual. And it highlights region-specific conditions and the potential for appropriate actions in these regions. So to follow up, the SCC will elaborate a comprehensive paper on region-specific boundaries conditions for the implementation of 4 per mil practices. Then we had some work done which were not common SDC activities. It were more activities of the SDC members with contributions of SDC. So there will be a book published concerning the understanding and fostering of soil carbon sequestration. This book will have 30 chapters in 4 parts. So there will be chapters on understanding carbon sequestration in soils, and measuring the carbon sequestration, on managing carbon sequestration, and also socio-economic, legal, and policy issues. So in this book, I gathered the contribution of the global scientific soil organic carbon community, including articles from SCC members, and the expected publication will be in August 22. Another work has been done to analyze the importance of soil carbon in the NDCs. There was an article published with contribution from the SDC, and also this work has been launched by SDC. So there was an article in Climate Policy published this year, and the work showed that 28 countries referred to soil organic carbon in the NDCs. And reasons for not including soil organic carbon in these national determined contributions is that the countries prioritize food security over climate change mitigation, that there may be a lack of incentives for farmers, and that it's difficult to monitor soil organic carbon. So in addition, there were 2 COPs notes published this year on the specific agricultural subsector in the countries. Then there have been specific publication activities of the SDC members. So there was one paper on the potential for enhancing soil organic carbon levels through the use of organic soil amendments in Queensland, Australia. And there was another article entitled "Rising to the Top 10 Transformative Projects in Asia and the Pacific, a stakeholder analysis of the community-based carbon sequestration project in Eastern Iran." Our action plan for 2022 is that we want to contribute further to the implementation plan of the 4 per mil initiative. We would like to review and synthesize the results of the Delphi study. We participate in the project assessment, of course, and there's a new point that we would like to elaborate info notes on the link between social and biophysical sciences. We would like to revisit the research pillars that have been established at the beginning of the launch of the For-Per-Millet initiative. And we would like to write a scientific paper about region-specific boundary conditions for the implementation of sustainable practices. We would like to finalize the special issue and to continue to work with the Global Soil Partnership. Also, we would like to continue and strengthen collaboration with partners and specific projects. And we would like to start to think about the organization of a scientific conference on For-Per-Millet. Yeah, thank you for your attention, and special thanks to the scientific community, the stakeholders and project holders, the farmers, the bureau members, and Paul Lu and the executive secretary. Thank you.
So I prepared one presentation. In fact, I'm going to present this afternoon for the consortium, but we thought it might be helpful for everybody else. Now, Paul just asked me to present to you the strategic plan. I make a quick detour on the collaborative platform to get there. I think Beatrice had already shown the strategic plan with the 6 goals that we have and the various objectives that we have. So I'm not going too much into depth. You have a link here on the web where you have the different objectives and the task forces that are related to it. I will just jump back to my presentation and finish that one. So the Delphi study on the 24 strategic objectives and the conclusions. And I joined this to the development of the 4/1000 implementation plan. So the main points of my presentation. First, I want to give you an insight in the purpose of the Delphi study. Why did we choose that technology or that methodology? The second, I present to you the process of how did we go about it. The third is the implementation strategy, what it looks like. The fourth is a strategy to action. And then the critical success factors to succeed. So 4 and 5 are for the year 2022. Now, the purpose of the Delphi study, we wanted to have a document that is a comprehensive implementation strategy that is objective and representative. It means it's not just something with the Secretariat's events, but it's really in true interaction with our network that we develop it, involving a lot of expertise to be sure that it is a solid document. So we have a high level of ownership by our partners, and that it can actually serve as a reference document for planning and projects and programs, coordinating and targeting of activities, building investors' confidence, and evaluating progress. So this goes beyond our own needs. It is really something that we say, listen, we want to contribute this to the global community around soil health and soil carbon sequestration. Now, for each objective of the 24, we try to reach consensus with exchange with our experts, with our task forces, on what is the underlying problem of the objective? What is actually the problem we're trying to solve? The second, what is causing the problem? And then once we had this analysis, we went in a second step. We then asked, what are the critical success factors if we want to achieve the objectives? What are the main points that we have to look at? The barriers that we have to overcome to get to our targets? And what activities do we have to invest in to get there? And the activities, of course, are the most interesting ones for our donors. This plan is really there to tell them, listen, in which activities do you need to invest according to our experts? Now, the process of the status, we first had a round where we collected elements of response from our task force members. We then had the study team looking at the feedback from experts, and we elaborated a summary report systematically, summary reports for each of the 24 objectives. So we had 24 summary reports that we then shared again with the expert, the same experts, and asked them, is the summary report Are you happy with it? What can we improve? So we got a lot of feedback telling us, so it was a up and down to get consensus on these draft implementation strategies. So what we have today is a draft implementation strategy that I will present to you in 2 slides. Now, to give you an idea about the participation, that was really amazing. So first of all, we look at it from the side of the stakeholder groups and the regions that participated. We had a total of 124 experts that contributed. You must imagine that the study takes about 3 hours time to complete. So it is an enormous investment that we had from experts. If you look a bit at the regions, at the stakeholder groups, of course, research and education participated most. That was the strongest fraction. And if you look at the regions, it was Europe that contributed most, but the others still contributed. So it is not the majority of Europe. It is really, it is quite a good picture, very mixed picture. So we can be rather confident that we had included a lot of diversity in this plan. And the consensus is really solid. Now, if you look at the task forces, on the top, you see that we had in total 4,519 statements as a response. So you can imagine the work we had to do to go through all of them to synthesize these summary reports and the draft implementation plan. The 124 to the right, to the left, you see the answers that we got, 645 for the problem statement. Causes, we had 1,090 causes that were indicated. So it was a huge bunch, but we developed quite a nice strategy. And then on the right-hand side, you see the number of studies that were completed for each objective. So we had a total of 191 studies that were completed by these 124 experts. Now, if you look at the strategy, it's on the platform. So you have the list of 24 objectives from A to F, from A1 to F3. Let me go to one which might be of interest. Let's go to carbon markets. I will show you a bit how it is structured. We have the original objective and targets from the implementation plans that we, the strategic plan that we developed in 2020. We had remarks from the study team because sometimes people misinterpreted the objective or the baseline of the targets. So we made a few general comments that we observed. Based with these comments, we then had proposed a revised objective and we have proposed revised targets. So we're most likely going to have, it's not a lot, but we will have probably a revised version of the 24 objectives, more specific, more quantitative, more target oriented for version 2 of the strategic plan. And this will be the subject this afternoon to discuss and adopt this. Now, the next one is a list of activities that we have to undertake to reach the targets and objectives. So you see that there's 8 different activity areas in which we need to invest. Comparison of schemes, help the rich is even there. Yes, improve access to compensate schemes. So please have a look at this document. And then, of course, there is the underlying problem. This was a major task because, of course, you're not doing an objective for the purpose of an objective, but you want to achieve an objective to solve a problem that we have. So the problem has causes, and now there are the critical success factors that we need to follow. So we have, again, for this only objective, and at the end, there are the barriers. So this is a bit the structure of one objective, and we have this now for all objectives. I made an effort and translated it into French. This was a subject at our bureau meeting. So we made a translation into French. It is, of course, a machine translation, but for a draft, I think it's fine. So pour ceux qui sont en français, ils peuvent aller ici. Let me go back to the presentation. Now, how do we get from strategy to action? We all use this reference framework now, this operational framework, COP per mil, to position a bit our activities, just to make sure that all we do is a bit coherent. So, of course, the strategy is on top of the core facility. So it's really the key activities that is led by the Secretariat with support of partners. Now, what do we want to achieve with building these alliances? Yes, partnerships and alliances. That is really, they are the ones going to implement projects to reach the objectives. Now, what we want to, what is an alliance and partnerships? That implement projects on activities defined in the implementation strategy, improve the enabling environment for the transformation of land use in line with the vision of the COP initiative, and alliances and partnerships that are aligned with other alliances and partnerships and relevant ongoing policies and programs for optimal impact. So it's not a standalone. Of course, we're aware that many other things happen, and this is important that our alliances and partnerships align with them. Now, by the end of 2021, where do we want to be? At the end of 2022, I would like to say, listen, COP has facilitated the formation of partnership and alliances and the elaboration of project concept notes. We cannot go beyond that. There was an item discussed at the STC on Monday. The partners submit corresponding on their own projects, proposals to funding organizations according to their specifications. We cannot, as an secretariat, go beyond the concept note. Each donor has its own guidelines and others, and this is part of the work of the alliances. Now, this is a bit what a concept note looks like. It's a rather simple tabular concept note to be shared with potential investors. So it is, if GIZ, for example, the World Bank is interested in funding an activity, this we would upfront deliver this to them so they can say, listen, please submit a full proposal. So it's a project title, justification, purpose, project key, strategic objective, activities to which it refers, and then the work packages with expected results, lead partners, collaborating partners, state of the art. So the concept note for alliances and partnerships are basically the same. We're using this format already successfully with GIZ for partnership on NDCs and on a project help desk. So that's working quite nice for the community of practice. Now, how do we get there? So this is what we want to get. These concept notes were a range of objectives. How do we get there? Now, the first step is getting organized. The second step, assess needs and competences and funds. I will show you in detail what it is. The step 3 is identify priority topics. We will not tackle everything at the same time, and we need to build partnerships and alliances. That's step 4. Now, how do we go about it? Getting organized. We have to finalize the implementation strategy right after the meeting here. We do a detailed planning and development of terms of reference for the various actors, organize the task forces, that's important, and organize regional networks. I think this is important to have the regional networks on board of this important exercise. The second is needs assessment, competences, assess needs, competences, and funds. We will ask basically producer and grassroots organizations to indicate, according to them, what objectives are the most important ones and what activities in these objectives are important. Where do they feel the gaps are in the field? And I think this also addresses a bit the problem that we had in the last session with Gerard Ras and the lady who said, listen, do what we can, our priorities, listen to us. Then the competences, we launch our partners, we will launch, it's already ongoing, a survey for the core competence. We just want to know what competences do our partners have. It's a simple survey, not much to fill, but which helps us to see who can contribute to what objective. And then assess funding opportunities. We want to share the implementation plan with government and funding organizations, and they should indicate what objectives and activities could they, in theory, based on their ongoing funding schemes, support. So based on this feedback of the 3 needs assessment, of the needs, competences, and funding opportunities assessment, we'll then apply priority theme by analyzing the intersection of needs, competence, and funds. We don't go for topics for which we already know we're not going to get money. So I think that's important. And we know that donors, it's not as easy for them as it might appear to switch funds from one subject to another. So we really have to see where opportunities now and make a balance between the three, the needs in the fields, the competences that we have, and the funds that are available. Then we will go to building partnerships. We'll call for project ideas. So partners are called to say, listen, for this priority topics, I have this idea. We'll group partings, evaluate feedback, and group committed potential partners according to priority topics and regions. And then we will organize virtual planning meetings to build and forge alliances, build partnerships and forge alliances, and then elaborate project concept notes with them, which I just showed you. And then they will develop and submit project proposals to donors. Now, what are crucial success factors? Of course, I think very important is good teamwork, set clear goals, responsibilities, and mutual support. I think good planning is important, activities and resources. So we know that we can sustain this action throughout the year. And then active partnership, participation of partners, that is always a big challenge, but we showed that with the fair, we can actually make it. And then share the work with task forces and regional networks. I think this is very important, that we really share the workload with them and have them on board. And then we need an adequate budget planning to get this done. Okay, thank you. Hello?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mark, for this great presentation.
Sorry, I hope it was not too long.
No, it was perfect, actually. But yeah, very great timing, great duration. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, we really appreciate this, and we would like to now open for comments and discussion. So does anybody in the audience have any comments or questions in regards to this implementation strategy? So yes, Dr. Susanna.
Yes, thank you so much for this presentation. And I think we all see that a lot of progress has been made indeed through the task forces and in creating this strategic plan. Then I just have one comment and one question, especially to you, Mark, but I guess to everybody. The first thing is that what you are explaining here in your slides about strategy, moving from strategy to action, is not taking into account what the members are already doing. And for sure, it was impressive this morning to see in the high-level segment that so many countries are active, are developing their own plans, and are actually providing funding, are providing some policy options for farmers to engage into soil health and soil carbon. So it seems to me that beyond creating a synthesis for funding from donors, we would really need at this stage to have a sort of systematic review of what the members are doing in each college. And I would say that starting with countries would be a clear option, because so much is being done through the countries. So that's one first comment. And then my question would be, I could see in your plan, Mark, that you are creating alliances, but isn't it going to be extremely challenging to have all this done, because you have so many possibilities of combining, let's say, farmers with countries, with donors, and centralizing all this within the 4 per thousand? Isn't it going to be very difficult to run, I mean, to operationalize? So how would you see this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susanna, for these great questions. So Mark, would you like to have a go at first responding to these?
Yes. First response, maybe the first slide. What I want to point out here is Claudia Schepp. We have 2.5 persons at BLE, and Claudia Schepp is really a very bright young lady. And I think yeah, we're quite a strong team now. Yes, so the secretariat has really changed. We had a difficult time in 2021 with the departure of first Conrad, and then we had Viridiana, who was with us for 2 months and then left us. And now since the 1st of November, Claudia Schepp is there. And actually the two of us, we sat down on Friday and outlined this plan. So good. The second thing I want to show to you is, where was it? So look at this point. I'm just going there. Align with other alliances and partners. This is really important. You're completely right. And I try to address this with other alliances and partners, relevant ongoing policies and programs for optimal impact. So I'm fully aware that we need to take care of this. And I think this is a point that we're going to have here when we're looking at access competences. Of course, this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to ask, what are you doing already? And where can we pick up? So it's not just about competences is not something I like to do. It's something you are doing, that you're used to do. So I think it is absolutely normal that we will strengthen this. To give you an example, what happened during the fair, we had quite nice alliances coming up between Brazil and Australia on the silica thing. They met there and they started joining. So this is a very simple way of developing these alliances. And I think this is very much the role of CopperMill, to bring people in contact that have complementary skills and regions and are looking to expand or whatever. Yes. So, but you are right, it is challenging, but it's just, we're not forgetting this. Yes, that we look at things that happen on the ground. And I hope that we will have a second fair this year. Will be other opportunity. Yes, but thanks a lot. Yes, I fully agree with you. It's challenging. It's ambitious.
Yes, I see we have a question from Mr. Jean-Luc Schott.
Yes, thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your very nice presentation and for the good move that you've made. I am talking as an elected member of the Research and Higher Education in the Bureau, and I have already said that this is a very good move. But I have a question, and maybe it's also addressed to Cornelia for the STC. And topic priority, how they are going to be identified. And because I have seen also in the STC work plan for the next year that STC is going to assess the implementation plan, if I am right. So it is at our member of the college are going to be part of this identification. I think that it needs to be done that way, to have a sort of consultation among each college to be part of the selection. And since I have the mic, I ask a question to Cornelia. I have seen in the work plan of STC that there is a need to connect with other body, and GSP was mentioned, but I was just wondering if there is any other connection for the scientific body of the For-Women initiative to connect with other scientific body of UN bodies. I would, for example, the Science Policy Interface of UNFCCC, which is working on carbon stock to assess land degradation and land neutral LDN. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schott. So I will let Paul give a first response to this question. We'll see if we need to complete.
Yes, thank you very much. I will also give the floor to Cornelia because Cornelia will be able to answer. Just to stress the fact that since the beginning of the STC meeting, we want to develop relation with other scientific institutions that are part of the GSP, for instance. Rosa is with us today, and she was with the STC as chair of the ITPS. So it's important to have this kind of relation, and we privilege those relations directly. And of course, we will be happy to welcome people from SPI in the meeting of the STC, maybe next time, just to have an exchange, first exchange, and then launch this collaboration, because you're right, all those subjects are discussed in different places, and we need to have coordination. We cannot work on our own because we are not sufficient in number and sufficient in capacity, and we all need to collaborate. And that's the sense also of the whole work around the implementation strategic plan. So thank you for that question. Maybe Cornelia, you want to add something and answer?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Of course, this will be a move in the right direction to collaborate with all other bodies from the UN. However, we are not yet the body of the UN, and I mean, we can try, Paul, with the help of the Secretariat, we get connections and get more known. And so this would be excellent if this could happen. If we, maybe, yeah, it's a good idea to invite the representatives, probably. Also of the desertification UNEP convention. Okay, thank you.
And to finish, to answer your question, Jean-Luc, about the assessment, it's not really an assessment. I think the STC wanted to be more active in the implementation plan, I mean, in the follow-up of the implementation plan. And we also noticed they were in demand to have a better collaboration between the College of Scientific College and the STC. And so we will most probably invite you and your friend from Senegal and from Madagascar that are in the bureau to participate to next meeting of the STC to have a better exchange. Thank you.
Thank you for these great questions. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience or on Zoom?
Now, maybe a small, may I? Just a concluding comment from my side. This is really a high-level plan. Yes, and Paul and I, we agree that we need a planning meeting to actually go into more detail of this. Okay, my region, your region, let's come together and solve the climate crisis right now. So this already explains a bit the nature of this. I don't know why this is not coming. Okay, what is the objective of the Twin Regions action? So it is Twin Regions concept seeks a framework for decentralized international action and solidarity that enables self-determined and self-reliant citizens' engagement in climate change mitigation and ecosystem restoration that addresses the three challenges of climate crisis. And I think this is a bit theoretical, but read it quietly. It links a bit to what Lois said this morning. It is not just about innovation. Of course, adoption of new technologies to remove carbon and to spread it quickly is important. But I think there's too much emphasis on the technical aspect. What is very important is global cooperation. Unlike waste and wastewater disposal, which can be solved locally or regionally, the removal of excess CO2 and other greenhouse gases requires global cooperation. This is what we have learned with water in the 60s, that the Dutch were complaining about the French and the Germans and the Swiss, that we solved it finally. So it's similar now. Now this is a global thing because it's a gas. And the third one, the very important dimension, is conflict management. Both the consequences of climate change and a necessary profound transformation of our way of life harbor an enormous potential for conflict that must be managed in order to turn it into an opportunity. And I think we must emphasize point 2 and 3. I think that technologies are there. Now, for the Twin Regions, how does it fit with Cap Promil? The Twin Regions are clearly at the side of the beneficiaries, with communities, with citizens, producers, and facilitators. And it's part of the cross-cutting action, which is a core facility of Cap Promil. So this is the position, and I intend now, with Claudia taking over from me at BLE, I intend to be more at the top level with beneficiaries in the future. Now, in the implementation strategy, the objective is the concept of the Twin Regions to unleash the synergistic potential of cooperation between contrasting regions to combat climate change, restore ecosystems, and improve livelihoods is being adopted worldwide. This is the new version that came out of the Delphi study. Now, the targets didn't change. Our targets as COP is to promote the twin region concept. 2030, we want to have it adopted in 20 countries, and 2050 in all countries of the world. Now, but let me be clear, twin regions, because we're working with communities, we have takes a holistic approach and is inclusive approach, is open to partner with organizations, networks, initiatives, and programs in other thematic areas and in all regions of the world. So it is really, if you like, it's a real life lab for some people, but we're fully aware that we have to link with others, and soil health and soil organic carbon can only be seen in the context of all the other developments. Now, there is a website that we developed on the AFRIS platform where you can go and have a look at it. So you will see some of my slides, and at the bottom you could register if you want to keep, if you want to be informed about the development of this initiative. Let me go back. So the background and problem. Many of you know this graph. So the situation is really critical, as André Le pointed out this morning. If we want to survive, and it's really about survival, we must drastically change our behavior. We must drastically change our behavior and lifestyle. We must move now from the debt and interest-driven system of exploitation and destruction of the planet to a system of earth stewardship. That's the only option we have. The action of the twin regions aims to facilitate this transition and make it a life-enriching experience. Now, if you look a bit at the report that came out in August by Rethink X, they looked at how much can we get out of the air CO2 by adopting existing technologies. And they found out that 90% we can reduce global emissions by 90% by 2035. We have these technologies ready. However, they are underutilized. 55% can be achieved by just scaling up proven technologies. So they're proven, it's just a matter of scaling. These include the potential for reforestation, improved agricultural practice, and changing dietary habits. Passive reforestation, so actually reforestation that is not under cultivation, accounts for 20% of the total reduction potential. That's enormous, yes? So that's the bar down here. Very interesting publication. Now, if you look at the ETH and CIRAT and FAO publication of 2019, they estimated that we can remove 100 ppm of CO2 from the atmosphere by forest regrowth on 0.9 billion hectares just by additional tree cover, not impeding on agricultural grounds. It's just besides it. So fallow areas, degraded areas, and others. The trend is with increasing temperatures, we risk losing 2 billion of these 0.2 billion hectares of the 0.9 because it will desertify and it will be difficult to restore forests. So we're really under time pressure. Now, the problem that Twin Region Action is trying to solve is the problem of unequal distribution of resources. And some people have mentioned this morning. Many areas with a great ecological potential to capture carbon do not have the financial resources to do so. And other areas that emit a lot of CO2 and have the resources that do not have the ecological potential to capture CO2. So look at the graph below, it's the European Union, and the green one is the sub-Saharan Africa. We have, since 1960, we have emitted here, the European Union, 195 gigatons of carbon. And sub-Saharan Africa, not even the whole of Africa, 30 gigatons of carbon. Now, if you look at the land and wealth distribution, it is exactly opposite. Africa would have areas to reforest, but has very little. The GDP is too low to actually do it. And contrary, Europe would have the money, but has too little area to get anything done. So it is almost a must to collaborate. Twin regions consist of two opposite places that come together to overcome their mutual environmental and economical and social constraints by using their complementary skills and resources. I think this is really key. We have to think about complementary skills as well, not just resources. It's also about skills. Typically, a place in a region with a low living standards, low emissions, but high ecological potential to sequester carbon, a CO2 sink region, teams up with a place in a region with a high level living standards, high emissions, but low ecological potential to sequester carbon, a CO2 source region. This is where I'm living. Together, they're pursuing the goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2035 and paying off their historic carbon debt from then on and building a system of environmental stewardship and global equality. Now, here you have two places. To the left, Copago, a place in Benin, so a typical CO2 sink region with, and on the other side, after where I'm living presently, where the blue dot is, a typical source region. If you look at the figures, 21,000, 24,000 population, emissions 0.4, 12 on the other side, 300,000 tons emitted by Alfter each year, and only 28,000 tons emitted in Copago. And if you see now the area size, 87,600 and 3,400 hectares. So they're completely complementary. Of course, this is just an illustrative example, but just to illustrate a bit what I think is possible. How are regions merged into twin regions? Now there will be something like a twin region carbon markets will be established to bring the regions together. The CO2 thinks regions need to develop a credible carbon sequestration of, and I think the NRV component of the World Bank was an excellent presentation, how important that is. For example, they could specify the areas suitable for active and passive afforestation, describe how they will proceed with the carbon sequestration, and what system they will use to demonstrate how much they have achieved. The CO2 source regions need to express their demand, how much CO2 for carbon sequestration, by implementing a carbon accounting system, an equitable cost sharing mechanism, like what they currently do for waste and wastewater management. The price is a matter of supply and demand. Currently, it is likely to be between $50 and $150 per ton of CO2, according to the latest desk studies. Depending on the lifestyle, the average annual cost for securing the future in Alfter is around 1,250 euros per person and year. So I would have myself, I would have to pay 100 euros per month. I would say that's reasonable. Market forces will help ensure that emissions, and especially demand for sequestration, decreases. The cost of sequestration remains realistic. People will start to say, listen, 100 is too much. They will try to reduce emissions. And so we get a market mechanism that balances between the two, and a sustainable equilibrium is achieved. The Twin Region Market Authority will set the rules and monitor the market to ensure development goals are met. Now, what are the big, what makes the idea so attractive? One, speed and economy. The complementarity of regions and decentralized approach allows to drastically reduce the time and cost needed for solving the climate crisis. Two, equality and fairness. The polluter pay principle will lead to a redistribution of wealth that is expected to set in motion a virtuous cycle of development that will enable key social and environmental problems such as poverty, migration, biodiversity loss to be addressed. Free up resources. Solving these fundamental problems will free up resources that are currently invested in mitigating their negative effects and will enable the transition to a system of environmental, social, cultural responsibility for sustainable development that benefits all. Low-cost transaction costs. Exchanging transactions between the twins takes place directly. Thus, there are less costs for intermediary activities, as this is the case with interventions that are led by governments and external organizations. So the two would deal directly. Employment opportunities. Twin regions offers a variety of employment opportunities in the regenerative sector in which old and young can participate to shape their future. Proximity and ownership. Citizens can experience the exchange directly, can closely monitor the impact of their efforts and adjust their actions as necessary. Integration, self-determination, and self-reliance will favor the development of cost-effective solutions that fit local conditions and have a high degree of co-benefits. Advanced learning, systematic and comprehensive documentation of the process and information exchange will accelerate learning of all stakeholders. Mutual understanding, it is expected that the cooperation will lead to a friendship between places, which helps to resolve conflicts and improve the quality of life. Public support, active participation of the population will contribute to better awareness and understanding of climate issue, and thus increase public support for mitigation measures. Aid effectiveness, linking up with twin regions will help partners of development to accelerate and increase their impact. And then proud and happy generation, the success of the movement will produce a generation that can be proud and celebrate its achievements. How do we kickstart the movement? We will launch a call now. It is already ongoing. What I'm doing now, the link that I sent to you, it showed to you at the beginning. Call for expression of interest to join the Twin Regions Action through the CAP per Mil network of members and friends. We will. This will be followed by a social media campaign asking communities, individuals, and groups to join the support of the movement. After COP26, AFRIS will organize a series of virtual workshops, AFRIS and with CAP per Mil, workshop with committed stakeholders to address critical questions, evaluate opportunities for collaboration, and plan startup activities. At present, the movement relies on the voluntary support of engaged stakeholders. We aim to having Twin Regions startup activities going in all regions by the end of 2022. It is time really that to systematically pay for the disposal of greenhouse gases, as we do for waste and wastewater. That's just the final comment. For more information, please visit this site. And thanks a lot for listening. I give back to you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for presenting us this very inspirational and promising project of the Twin Regions. Very interesting presentation. Thank you. So this concludes the meeting of the Forum of Partners. So thank you to all presenters, Paul, Mark, Cornelia, and also to the great questions that were asked. I believe we now have a clear idea of really all that was achieved in the last year, also a better idea of next steps, thanks to this implementation plan, and also how this all came together through the input of all our stakeholders as well, and of this new project, the Twin Regions, which sounds really promising.